You're listening to the Esoterics Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Fioraliz.
And this is Joe. Welcome back to the Esoterics Podcast.
How you doing, Joe?
Hi. I'm doing really good this week. It was a good day. Well, it's been a good day so far, and it's going to keep being a good day and a great weekend. What about you?
I spent part of this morning gardening and most of my weekend gardening.
Oh, you did? You're working in your garden. Or is it coming about? What's happening?
Right? It's mostly cleanup, and I'm like, is this what gardening is? But I guess that's what it is.
Have you sat down to talk to Ashley yet? You need to pick her brain.
I need to. Well, once I get there, I'm not even planting things yet. I am just removing. I am just cleaning up leaves for days, which I've heard that, or I've seen videos of people who are like planting their vegetables and stuff, and they actually use that leaf matter stuff to put on top as like mulch. It's like the best mulch you can use.
Yeah. So
I'm bagging this stuff up, but I'm also thinking, I'm like, but I don't want to hold on to it. I feel like I have an endless supply. So at what point?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's just work. And then you have to get it done early in the morning because it's like 100. It's been like 105 the last couple of days here. So yeah, I've got to get it done while I still have shade in the morning, and then once it hits like 10:30, I'm done because it's too hot.
You're done, and then you go inside. Do you typically enjoy gardening?
This is, other than high school, because I was the landscape manager in high school. Other than that, this is the first time I've done it, like on where I've been in charge of. Yeah. So do I enjoy it? Yes, I do. I do enjoy it. I think you get to this point where you start like you're digging things or you're pulling weeds or whatever, and you kind of zen out. Like it's like a weird meditation thing where you stop thinking about whatever you've been thinking about, and then you're just kind of like, it's just you in the dirt and you and the plants.
Yeah.
But so I'm getting there. My problem is that I always forget to water stuff. So for me, like outdoors with sprinklers, like that's how it has to be, because otherwise
That's key.
I can't. I'll forget, or I'll remember at night, and then I'm not going to go out and do it anymore. So to water.
Well, this gives you an opportunity to brush up on those creds, those high school landscape manager creds. Yeah, I forget to water too. I have 2 giant, beautiful coleus plants, and coleus is the only thing that I don't kill. It's the only thing that I don't neglect, I think. And then, so I found a beautiful, I can do coleus. Oh my God, they're huge and they're beautiful. I'll send you pics when I go downstairs later. And then I do succulents because they require very little. I had a thyme plant out there, and that sucker's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, little thyme. You had to come on with me.
I once tried to plant a little window box. We lived in a condo, so we didn't have any kind of garden at all. And so I had this little window box, and I put some herbs in there. So I put like thyme and oregano and mint.
Because how awesome to go and snip some and put them in your food.
It was 3 days, and it all got eaten by bugs. It was just, and what didn't get eaten by bugs, it dried out because I didn't water it. And so it was not for me.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you have this outlet to help, sort of rekindle your love of gardening. I absolutely, I don't loathe that. I just, on a list of things to do, it's going to be last is any sort of gardening. But I do love potting my coleus every spring and then watching them grow. That's all I like. So.
I have some really beautiful plants out there. I don't know the names of everything. I had some lantana. I know that. But I had asparagus fern, which is like one of my favorite plants, just because it looks so cool. But there's this big the elephant ear type plant. I don't know what they're called. They're kind of like giant monstera type things. I don't know what they're. I'll send you a picture, but they're awesome, and they're just growing like crazy out there. And I feel like if it had been me who picked the plant, I probably would have never picked that plant. But they're beautiful palms.
See, that's why you need people with credentials to do the landscaping and maintain it if you are of the means. Is lavender easy to grow, and is it hardy? Should I avoid it?
It is water hardy. Yeah, it doesn't require a lot of water, actually.
I'm gonna get some lavender, I think. It grows all over the place here in Portland. Everybody has it in their front yard, and it's my absolute favorite plant in the entire world. I would love to have some, but just to see, but then I would feel bad if I killed it, because most plants die.
It doesn't need a lot of water. So you just
good. I'll try
generally with plants like that, you just need to water them enough to get them established, and once they root, they're good.
Can you grow it inside? Can I bring it inside in the winter?
I believe it needs full sun.
Okay. Oh, well, that will be hard, because my patio's weird. It doesn't get full sun. It gets full sun for a couple hours in the morning, and that's it.
Yeah, check it. I don't know for sure. And then there's different types of lavender too. So maybe a certain kind will grow with partial shade. Yeah.
I will check into that.
Thank you for joining our plant talk today.
Right. Right. Thanks, guys. Okay. Well,
what do you got? Some announcements?
Do you have? I mean, really, just one that I opened up there is room in my production schedule for intuitively designed jewelry that's based on your numerology, your astrology, and your Akashic record. So you can pick your own design. You get a ring or a pendant. They're all sterling silver. The chain is sterling silver. It's $325, and it comes with a ton of stuff. It comes with you get a 60-minute Akashic Soul Blueprint reading, and those are $175 if you just book them on your own. But then it comes with this multi-page guide that I put together for you. It gives you all of your numerology, your soul blueprint. It gives you your astrology. It gives you pictures of the design process if you want them. Some people like to be surprised, which I think is kind of cool, but it's also cool to watch the process, watch them go from raw pieces of metal into this beautiful finished design. You get a description of the gemstone, the materials used, their properties. There's a 5-year personal year energy forecast, and we'll learn about personal years later. And then you get a message from your spirit guides, and then I tell you how to care for your jewelry. So there's a lot jam-packed into this report. Yeah. So if you want it, hit my website, joefigueras.com, under intuitively designed jewelry, fill out that little, there's a questionnaire type of thing, and then it'll start the process.
And it's a really great gift, even if the gift is for yourself. A lot of people have birthdays in September, but it does make a very thoughtful, very meaningful gift. So
yeah, I had a guy, he said, hey, I want to get my wife a reading. She wants a reading from you. I want to get it for her birthday. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, that's cool and everything, but for just $100 more, you can get an intuitively designed piece of jewelry for her. And of course, men, they're always looking for, thing to get their wives. And he was like, let's do it. She loved that thing so much. She just raved and raved and raved about it. Yeah. And it was probably one of the most, one of the prettier pieces that I've ever done. So
that's awesome.
Really, yes, they're great gifts.
Yep. All right.
What are we talking about today?
Oh, well, today. Oh, do you want to talk about the moon? Can we talk about the moon first?
Oh, there's a new moon coming up. Yes, there is. It's coming up.
So,
yeah, let's talk about it.
So we have the new moon coming up. That's at August 27th. And so this one, it helps us make solid plans as we enter the final stretch of summer. And it aids us in using its energy more intentionally.
Yeah. So, new moons are all about intentions, right? But this one specifically, because of its power, it'll be really good to use intention.
Well, it's Virgo, and Virgo is very like, gotta do things a certain way.
Yes. And Virgo is also about like clearing things out, like keeping things clean, right? Spreadsheet Virgo.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's the energy coming into this full moon. How can we, what should we do? Are there some things we should do?
Yes. So here's some things if you want to help clear out some clutter in your life in different levels of clearing out. So one is make your plans for the future. Try to focus on the well-being of yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. Try not to overcomplicate your feelings. And also stay grounded in your personal objectives. So whatever that is for your future, whatever plans you've had for your future, try to stay grounded in what those are. When you do that, then you have a much better chance of navigating through whatever obstacles may come your way without veering too far off course.
Right. And then like, there's like a square with Mars, and that would make us want to jump on like every single desire or idea that pops into our head. And so, yeah, that's really good advice because, Mars can make us sort of impulsive.
Yeah. Yeah. Mars can do that. It can also make you kind of mean. Kind of angry.
mean and angry and argumentative.
Yes.
What is it? It's the planet of war, or it represents war. Yeah, you're saying it so nicely. You might be an asshole during Mars, but try to channel that Virgo's logic, heavy practicality and thinking before you act. What are some other things? How can we work with this?
So while we may still have that burning desire to start something new under August's dark moon, this new moon will help us serve, or the full moon will help us serve us best if we're quick to act and are more focused on creating adaptable and weatherproof plans. So again, it's grounding. And if you can temper your impulses, harness the new moon energy, and this can be a really beautiful time to map out a flexible strategy for getting what you want.
So it kind of it is tagging onto or grabbing onto the energy of the Lionsgate, which was, Lionsgate was a new moon, or I'm sorry, was on a
it was a full moon,
correct?
Yes.
So, and that's typically about release, except in the Lionsgate energy, it's more Lionsgate energy. You want to use that for manifestation, for calling things in. And that's what a lot of people did. So with this energy, it's sort of like tapping onto that. So using it to map out that flexible strategy, right? More intention.
Yeah, and visualize. So whatever that means for you to make it either more tangible, whether you're maybe making a checklist of steps of the next steps things you have to get done, your to-do list, or if you want to be more creative about it and make yourself your vision board, your mood board, that kind of stuff, if that's something that you gravitate towards normally. But it's about being attentive to the details that will help you, again, stay grounded in attaining your goals.
Nice. So then I recommend like a meditation, connecting with nature, being out in nature. If it's not hot as balls, wherever you are, it's like with you where you are, it's super, super hot. But then I heard in Michigan, it was like 55. Yeah. So, it's just, Michigan's like weird like that anyway. But it's also a good time to kick any of those goals into gear. And those goals are sort of the things that have been, or the need to pursue goals has been really, really heavy on everybody's mind since like July 26th. That's when the Lionsgate energy actually started. So now is the time to really focus on. I asked Spirit for help with my goals because I'm like, look, I don't like consistency. I don't like restriction.
Yeah.
I don't like any of that. But if these are things that need to be kind of like your fried chicken story, right? If this is something that I need to give up, then I need your help.
Yeah, you got to help me. You got to,
You gotta
do this together.
So, yeah. All right, good. This sounds like a really lovely new moon.
It does. Nothing too crazy.
Fantastic.
Virgos aren't anything to be afraid of.
No, I know they get a bad rap mostly just because. Yeah, they're earth signs. I do too. Mostly it's just like, oh, for God's sakes, sometimes they just have a stick up their butt. Sometimes it's like, ugh.
I have a Virgo. I have one Virgo child, and she hates surprises. Does not want to be surprised. Always needs to know what to expect. And then one of her best friends, also a Virgo. They're both born in September, and so we're planning a surprise birthday party for her friend. And I'm like, not kind of whispering because she's like in the other room now. And so we're planning. And so her mom and I are like, okay, so we can't tell. Obviously, we're not going to tell the birthday girl, but we can't tell my daughter either. We can't tell any of them because she will go and tell her because she knows that she hates surprises too. And she'll, so we're like, nope, it's a surprise for both of them.
And then they'll both be mad. They'll be mad together. They'll at least have each other.
Exactly. It'll work out.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it that she reached out to you and she's like, hey, let's do this thing.
Yeah. So
that's
it's
cute.
The 21st. So.
Oh, okay. It's bonus daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's her friend it's her friend's 21st birthday. So, yep. Yeah. She's it's an important, what is it? What are those things? Landmark birthdays?
Yeah. 21.
Yeah.
Heck yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, are you doing something fun? Like, is it like big, or is it just the fact that it's a surprise?
It's a surprise, and it's just a party. She's funny because she's like mature in so many ways, but also still a kid in a lot of ways. So that's why her parents feel like, oh, let's just throw her a party. Where sometimes there's so much in 21, and you're like, oh no, let's take them to Vegas or whatever. But that's not her jam.
That's not her jam. Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny too that now that I know which one you're speaking of, it's like, oh yeah, she's definitely Virgo. Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's organized chaos is the best description of them. But yeah. All right, you ready to get started with today?
I am. So now, can you tell me what we're talking about?
Yes. Okay. So, yay! Now we are talking about cannabis, but we are talking about it in the entheogenic perspective. So, entheogens are plants used in ritual or a spiritual way, or sometimes in
any plant. The time could be an entheogen.
Yeah, if you use it. Yep.
Okay. As long as you're using it religiously. Like cacao.
Exactly. Cacao. I mean, obviously there's all the psychedelics as well, but even technically like frankincense and myrrh, right? Like there's, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's there in the Bible, and there's some history of
entheogenics.
Yeah, entheogenics. So,
entheogenics.
So this was actually sparked, or the interest in digging more into this was sparked because I was watching this documentary on Netflix called The Grass is Greener. Have you seen it or heard of it?
No.
Okay. Mm-mm. So it doesn't really have much to do with like the entheogen part of cannabis, but it talks about how cannabis became illegal and the racial part of it, and that's the reason why it became illegal, was because it was a way, if like you wanted to persecute Black people and brown people, and it was a really easy in to go and say like, well, the thing that they prefer, over inebriation or whatever,
Alcohol?
alcohol, they, and if you call this out and say like, oh well, that's illegal and this is bad and this causes XYZ, blah blah blah, and they just basically made up all this shit, saying that cannabis caused people to become violent and all this crazy stories that they just totally pulled out of their ass in order to make it illegal. And then it resulted in what it's resulted in the disproportionate incarceration of Black men and brown people and all that. So anyway, so the documentary is really good. I totally just recommend that you watch it. It just really points out a lot of shit that's obviously wrong with our society, and how people in power used cannabis as a way to outlaw certain groups of people.
Right, because white people, white hillbillies specifically, were making alcohol, right? They were making these in stills in the hills and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and yes, I know prohibition, blah, 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 but...
Yeah, but that didn't last long.
No, it didn't. And also, like, if Black and brown people are using these in their practices, their indigenous practices, their cultural practices, all of that stuff, alcohol was not being used for practices. I mean, other than I think Catholics use it in wine, right? You drink wine in there.
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, here we go, right? Okay, it's okay for alcohol because God has you drink it during a Catholic service, but so interesting.
It's a very cool documentary. It also gets into it progresses into how it was mostly used by jazz musicians and how that was causing racial integration in the jazz clubs. And how that was obviously like a problem for white men. It was like, because now white women were out dancing with Black men, and this was a problem because segregation and all this shit. So yeah, it's good, but then it actually gets into like the influence in pop culture and in music, and it's actually really cool. And Snoop Dogg's on there, and it's funny because that you talk about alcohol, because he says something in there about if you've got a person in a room who's got a problem, and if that person's drunk, that's a problem. Like that person's gonna you're gonna kick them out. But if a person's high and you've got beef with him, or he's got a problem, you just put him in the corner. He'll be fine. Like he's not gonna attack. Like
I don't want any trouble when I'm high. That's the last thing I want. Last thing I want. I'm just trying to figure out how to breathe properly sometimes, right?
Yeah.
When you got the good stuff.
You forget how to breathe. Oh my God. That's the worst.
Something's going on. I'm high. I can't remember how to breathe. Let me focus on this.
I wish I could say that's never happened to me, but
I know, right? We're heathens. Okay, so The Grass is Greener on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Totally worth the watch.
We'll check it out.
A good time. It makes you a little angry, but then it gets, and then it gets into fun stuff too. So it's a nice balance.
Yeah.
Okay. So I essentially just went into like the history of cannabis, but again, like I wanted to really focus on how people used it religiously or spiritually.
Cool.
So the origin of cannabis itself is believed to be in Asia, or that it came from Asia. And then we know Asia and all its different trade routes that it had pretty much with everyone throughout the globe. And that's how it began to spread. So, because of its trading activities, it went into Africa by Arabian traders, and Ethiopia was the first of the part of the continent to come in contact with the plant. And then other earlier evidence suggests that Egyptians also used the plant.
Egyptians?
Mm-hmm.
Egyptians, yes. Cool. I'm all over anything Egyptian.
Yeah. Okay. So first we're going to start with India.
Okay.
We're essentially just going to go continent by continent.
Okay.
All right, so India. So the earliest known reports regarding the sacred status of cannabis in the Indian subcontinent came from the Atharva Veda, which was written around 2000 to 1400 BC. And it mentions cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants, which releases us from anxiety. They say that a guardian angel resides in its leaves.
It's true.
Yeah, the Vedas, which are the ancient holy text of India, they refer to it as the source of happiness, joy giver, and liberator. And
all true. Cannabis does all of these things for me.
Yes. And in the Raja Vallabha, the gods send hemp to the human race so that it might attain delight, lose fear, and have sexual desires.
Thank you, gods. Thank you, aliens, whatever.
Yes. Many households in India own and grow a cannabis plant to be able to offer cannabis to the passing sadhu, which are ascetic holy men. And during some evening devotional services, it is not uncommon for cannabis to be smoked by everyone present. You know, that sounds like a good time.
It really
like
does.
Religious service.
Yes, and beautiful and welcoming.
That I would partake in.
Dude, right. Like,
like instead of falling asleep in Catholic Mass. Anyway. Cannabis is also often consumed in weddings or in festivals honoring Shiva, who is said to have brought it down from the Himalayas. So it's offered to Shiva in temples on Shivaratri Day. And while devotional meanings called bahans, although not necessarily associated with Shiva, are occasions for devotees to consume the drug liberally.
Nice.
Yogis or sadhus, along with Hindu mystics, have been known to smoke a mixture of cannabis sativa and tobacco in order to enhance meditation.
Hello, there it is, right there. And when is that? That's like ancient, right?
Yeah.
Ancient. So can I talk about the story about why this is such a good episode?
Yeah.
So I recently had a reading with someone. It wasn't really it was a reading. But one of the things that they told me was that I need to stop consuming cannabis and edibles. They said that my guides told me that. And I know that that's not true. My guides that's not what guides don't tell you to stop doing anything. I mean, I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
You have free will. They can't do that.
They can't, right? So I realized that she was projecting her own challenges or beliefs that had nothing to do, but it was in the guise of cannabis or of bias, and you shouldn't do this because whatever. But the issue, normally I would have been like, oh, no big deal. The issue was that I was then told that I have negative entities as a result of that are preying on me. So huge problem there. Zero resonance, and I'm like, bullshit, because if that's the case, there's way too much richness and depth in history of it. And if that were the case, it's been used for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we know the evils of alcohol. Nobody's ever like, drink alcohol, it's great for you, it'll help you, do this, other than,
if anything allows for like possession, it is alcohol.
Right?
And we've seen it in spirits, right? It's called spirits. And you've seen it. We all have a friend that like completely changes personality when they get a little drunk. And it's like night and day. And that's because it's allowed for some low key possession in that person.
Right. So in the conspirituality realms, that cannabis is bad for your spirituality, bad for your connection to divinity, bad for meditation, bad for all those things. Bullshit. It's not. And we have thousands and thousands of years in different cultures to prove it to us. So, okay, now continue enlightening us about all those amazing cultures and ways that it was used and revered.
So there's actually 3 types of cannabis that are used. So I thought this was interesting because like I've heard of like hash or hashish, right? And I'm like, what's the difference between that? Okay, so what you're talking about. Okay, so the first is called bang, spelled BHANG. So I hope I'm saying it right. And this is a type of cannabis edible. and it consists of the leaves and the plant tops of the marijuana plant. And it is usually consumed as an infusion in beverage form, and it varies in strength according to how much cannabis is used in preparation. It's like, well, duh. That's like everything, right?
Right.
The second, ganja, consisting of the leaves and the plant tops, is smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third, called charas or hashish, consists of the resinous buds and or the extracted resin from the leaves of the plant.
Yes. Okay, so I knew about ganja and hashish. I didn't know about the other one.
Yeah,
Cool.
Bang. And so typically, though, bang is the most commonly used form of cannabis in religious festivals.
Okay, I never heard of
Yep.
bang. And bang is just rolling it in a joint, right?
Basically, yep.
Yeah. Or I mean, I suppose you could just put it in a pipe or whatever, but
yeah. No, that one is the edible one. That's the one they put it in a beverage.
Oh, the edible. Oh, yeah,
Bang.
yeah. Okay.
Bang.
Okay.
Yeah, bang is the one. Yeah, in a drink. And lastly, in tantric Buddhism, so tantra, right? You know, it's like that's right. Sex. Which originated in the Tibeto-Himalayan region, cannabis actually serves a very important part of the traditional ritual, which may or may not also include sexual intercourse. Cannabis is usually taken to facilitate meditation. It also heightens awareness of all aspects of the ceremony, and with a large oral dosage being taken in time with the ceremony so that the climax of the high, quote unquote, coincides with the climax of the ceremony, which I thought was very interesting.
That is cool as hell.
It is, because I know that even now, today, people have incorporated with sex magic.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that because it does allow you to like shed inhibitions in a certain way and really get more in tune with your body in a much more conscious way.
Well, and okay. I mean, I've had sex on the ganja, and it's literally it's totally different. The sensations and the feeling, it's amazing. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, and ancient China. So this guy, he was a sinologist and a historian, Joseph Needham. He concluded that the hallucinogenic properties of hemp were common knowledge in Chinese medical and Taoist circles for 2 millennia or more. Other scholars, and that is a really long time. Yeah, other scholars associated with Chinese Wu, which is what they call their shamans, showed evidence of them using entheogenic use of cannabis in Central Asia. So in the mountains of Western China, there's significant traces of THC, which is, the part of cannabis that gives you the like actual like feeling high effect, have been found in wooden bowls excavated from 2,500-year-old cemeteries.
Wow. So very cool.
So it's been around.
It's been around a long, long time.
Yes. And then in the 5th century AD, there was a Taoist priest who wrote the following. Cannabis is used by necromancers, which necromancers are wizards or magicians, in combination with ginseng to set forward time in order to reveal future events. Which I'm like, that's pretty cool.
I know, right?
And actually in that documentary, In the Grass is Greener, they talk about how jazz musicians used it because for them it like stopped time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just think that's an interesting like interpretation of how it makes you feel, of the how it elongates time or whatever, the time effect. Okay, so the use of cannabis as a hallucinogenic drug by these necromancers or magicians is especially notable because in most early cultures, including in ancient China, medicine has its origin in magic. So medicine men were also considered practicing magicians. Yeah.
Nice.
So the only thing that changed, though, was that after the rise of Confucianism, which spread from China through East Asia and then into Japan, the ingestion of cannabis resin for psychoactive or ritualistic purification was eventually just like phased out. It was suppressed. in Japan, and then eventually in China. So, okay. And then we're going to go a little bit back. So this is getting into essentially ancient Central Asia. So we're talking about the Greeks here. So in approximately 440 BCE, the Greek histories of Herodotus.
Those Greek names, they're fucking impossible, except for stupid Zeus. That's easy.
Yeah, fucking Zeus.
Fucking Zeus.
They record that the earliest Scythians used cannabis steam baths, which doesn't that sound fucking fun? That sounds like a nice time.
I mean, remember that the oracles of Delphi, they would like straddle the fumes that were coming up from the earth and take a big old hit on it. Of course, they're gonna sit in the bath too.
Dude, I want to do a cannabis steam bath now. Like, that sounds fun. Anyway,
I'm gonna leave here and go to the store. I'm like, I gotta go to the pot store. I'll be back.
I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna go sit in the sauna at the
gym. How did it work? Does it say how it worked?
No, they did not explain. Like, I don't think they want to
steam bath.
I mean, I don't know. I guess you could just probably like burn the flowers and kind of create like an incense type thing in the steam bath, and then it's just kind of like, then it gets in your pores. I don't know. Sounds fun. Okay. What Herodotus called the hemp seed must have been the whole flowering tops of the plant, where the psychoactive resin is produced along with the fruit. Herodotus also noted that the Thracians, a people who had intimate contact with the Scythians, introduced the plant to the Dacians. Jesus Christ. They're just all talking to each other, where it became popular among a shamanic cult named the Capnobatai. Also known as what that word means is those who walk in the clouds, which means like you're high as fuck, right? Like
they probably named each other when they were fucking high. That's why it's so impossible to comprehend when you're not high. Like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I don't know what this says. I'm just gonna call it Theodosius Alchematia or something stupid.
So the Capnobatai, which was they call it a religious cult, which I don't know about you, but I feel like the word cult now has like a negative connotation. So I don't know.
Does. I mean,
right?
Now.
But the shamans of this group or this cult were known to use hemp smoke to induce visions and trances, which is like, you could have like be smoking a lot, no? Like to get to that part of it. I don't know.
I guess I'm envisioning like Native American or shamanistic practices where they sit in those little tiny rooms and they put that, and then they fill up the room with smoke.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What are those called? Those little powwows. No. That's not
Oh,
what they're called.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't know what it's called. Like Native Americans, like in Aztecs. We have the oh god, what are they? The steam.
Yes,
rooms, right?
the steam. Yes, where it's hot in there and they do things and they pass around the peyote or the ayahuasca or whatever. So anyway, that's what I'm envisioning that would be like. I want to do that. I don't really like to be hot. That's the thing. So I don't know how much I would love.
Tamascal is what the Aztec. Yeah, Tamascal is what the Aztecs call it. Yeah. Okay. I want to do it.
You do it well.
Still, yeah, I want to try it.
I hope that for you, but then you can tell me about it. But
yes,
I'd like to do mine in a pool with the cool breeze. I don't really like to be hot.
How it works.
I get mad mean and mad when I'm hot, so it's counterproductive.
All right. So also during this time, a lot of their burial tombs of people of the Scythians, of the Phrygians, all of them, when they found their tombs, they found evidence of cannabis sativa seeds. So it seemed to be part of their burial practices. So like there's one thing. So the Chinese archaeologist found a tomb that was probably circa 2400 to 2800 BC and this was in northwest China. And they found the remains of an approximately 35-year-old man who had been buried with 13 1-meter cannabis plants. Which is that's fully grown, I think. I don't know, it's pretty tall. And they were placed diagonally across his chest. So this is the first archaeological discovery of a complete cannabis plant. And it's as well as the first instance of their use as a burial shroud.
I love that. They're sending love and light and happiness cool. In the ever after. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. And then we move into Africa.
Ooh.
So in Africa, cannabis was used medicinally to restore appetite, to relieve pain of hemorrhoids. They also used it as an antiseptic, which I thought that was interesting because I feel like with us in Mexico, like a lot of our grandmas know to put the marijuana leaves in alcohol, and then you put that like when you have pain or whatever.
Nice.
So I just think it's interesting how like that stuff kind of carries down. Anyway, so in a number of African countries, it was used to treat tetanus, hydrophobia, infantile convulsions, other nervous disorders, cholera, rheumatism, hay fever, asthma, skin diseases, and even protracted labor during childbirth, which is like, wow, could you imagine?
I know. I mean, but this also is sort of validation because, there are so many organizations that are trying to, or that have been working for years to legalize marijuana and hemp because of their medicinal properties and all of the things.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, it's stupid that it's not. I mean, in many places it is, but yeah.
And in Africa, there was also a number of cults and sects of hemp worship.
Ooh.
So there were some explorations done by two people named Pog and Wisman. They did explorations around 1881, and they found large plots of land around villages that were used exclusively for the cultivation of hemp. Originally, there were just small clubs of hemp smokers, and eventually they formed friendships, and they turned into religious cults as a result. So, one of these was the Bashilinge people, and they called themselves the Bena Riamba, or the Sons of Hemp. And their land, Lubuku, meaning friendship. And they greeted each other with the expression Moayo, meaning both hemp and fire.
Or translated by Snoop Dogg, spark it up.
Yeah, basically. So the Bashilinge people actually worshipped the plant, and they called it their god because of the supernatural feeling it gave after it was eaten or smoked. And they believed that the plant was magical, and they used it to ward off evil spirits, which I was like, yeah, that's cool. Most men were supposed to smoke it as frequently as possible to show their devotion to their god.
Well, I'm down. I'd be down for that if I was a guy. I'd be like, okay, I can do this.
This led to a large cultivation of the plant by this tribe, at least. So every home was obligated to have a garden of cannabis to show appreciation and devotion to the god. I mean,
I know, right? You're right.
Cool.
Yeah, we need to incorporate so many more of these practices because we'd have so many more happy people in this world rather than, angry, crazy.
Yeah. And the hemp pipe assumed a symbolic meaning for the Bashilinge, somewhat analogous to the significance with like the peace pipe that American Indians had. No holiday, no trade agreement, no peace treaty was transacted without it. And then in the Middle Sahara region, the Senussi sect was also cultivated hemp and on a large scale for use in religious ceremonies. Today, unfortunately, although it is like a cash crop throughout the world, it is largely illegal in Africa.
Is it really? That's too bad.
Yeah. South Africa is among few places on the continent where its consumption is legal and regulated. Malawi also records the largest unofficial export of marijuana, although it is illegal there.
Oh, it's like, all right. Malawis are like, we'll find a way.
Where it works. Okay? Leave them alone.
Right. Right.
Okay. And now we're going to go a little bit into the past. So this isn't necessarily just a continent. So talking about cannabis in Germanic paganism.
Ooh.
So in ancient Germanic, so of course, like Germans always, because our language, right, derives from it's a Germanic language. So we always have them to thank for the fucking origin of words that we use. So we're going to get into why we call it hemp. Okay. So in ancient Germanic paganism, cannabis was possibly associated with the Norse love goddess Freya. Linguistics offers further evidence of prehistoric use by the Germanic peoples. The word hemp derives from the Old English hanep, from Proto-Germanic hanepis, and it's the same Scythian word that cannabis derives from. So there you go. It's basically the Germans made up the word hemp.
Yeah, it's a rather I don't know. It just seems. I mean, now that I know that it was made up and it's not actual, like it's not founded in something that's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's not a very good word for something so magical. It needs a better name.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Germans, for your
thanks.
Terrible word.
I mean, they just, that's just what they're just good at, making words.
They're good at words.
We're just good at preserving their words, I guess, is really what it's about. Because everyone else made lots of other words, but we just haven't preserved them the way that we have kept those. Other than that, the Celts may have also used cannabis. There is evidence of hash traces were found in Hallstatt, the birthplace of Celtic culture.
Okay.
And that's all for that part of it.
Okay.
And then we get into the Middle East. So cannabis oil was likely used through the Middle East for centuries before and after the birth of Christ. The Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Israelites, among other Semitic cultures of the Middle East, mostly acquired cannabis from Aryan cultures and have burned it as incense as early as 1000 BC. In Egypt, cannabis pollen was recovered from the tomb of Ramesses II. And cannabis as an incense was used in the temples of Assyria and Babylon because its aroma was pleasing to the gods.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know about that, but
I mean, I wonder how different it smelled like then to now,
right, because now it's all skunky.
Well, yeah, because we fucked with it so much. Like, yeah, I wonder how different it would have been
if
back
it
then.
Smelled like, what's my favorite incense? Nag Champa. Ooh, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then we start getting into Judaism and cannabis, because it's kind of like two worlds of things. This should split. Okay. So most academics believe that it is not documented or mentioned in early Judaism, that cannabis isn't mentioned at all in early Judaism. However, against this, there are some popular writers who have argued that there is evidence of use of cannabis in the Hebrew Bible. The primary advocate for this theory was a Polish anthropologist. Her name was Sula Bennett. And she claimed that the plant cannabosum, mentioned 5 times in the Hebrew Bible, and was used in the holy anointing of the books of Exodus, was cannabis. And then there's a bunch of other people that disagree. So,
of course, wrong.
It's like, for every one person that says one thing, there's like 5 other that are, and until you don't have solid physical proof, I guess, for some people, they're never going to believe it. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So according to some theories that hold that cannabis was present in ancient Israelite society, a variant of hash was believed to have been present. So most people though agree that although it might not have been like straight up cannabis, that it would have been like hemp fibers, because hemp was a vital commodity before they replaced it with linen. Yeah. So and other people think that it's some other plant called Acarus calamus, and not cannabis. So again, like people cannot agree.
No.
Oh, well. Yeah. And in the year 2020, it was announced that cannabis residue had been found on the Israelite sanctuary of Tel Arad, dating to the 8th century BC, in the kingdom of Judah. So that suggests that the cannabis was part of some Israelite rituals at the time. So there you go.
There you go. There you go. It's found everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to touch on Mexico about regarding cannabis. Although cannabis wasn't some people believe that like the Aztecs had cannabis, but there isn't a whole lot of proof of that. Again, it seemed to me like from everything that I've learned so far over the last couple of years is that if the Mayans or the Aztecs like used something or honored something, they would fucking make sculptures of it. Like you always found like there's all these things. So it's mostly believed that it was brought over by the colonizers when they came into Mexico. Yeah, they brought it, and the Spanish brought it because they brought the hemp plant because they needed to create things, to make things like rope. So that's primarily that's why they brought it. And then no one's really sure if they brought the whole plant or if they just brought seeds. But either way, like it's generally understood that that's how it got there. That's how it got to Mexico.
Here.
Yeah.
So marijuana is a big old colonizer itself.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So marijuana is essentially it's like the Spanish word for it. And then I'll get into like what some people think, like how it was created, but or how the word came about. But the thing is that although maybe the Aztecs and the Mayans didn't have it for like in ancient times, because the people because the Aztecs were already used to using those psychedelics, because they did actually use like ayahuasca, right? Mushrooms, the big stuff. Mushrooms. They had their their tobacco that they used, salvia as well. So because they were already used to psychedelics, when they brought in cannabis, or they started to use cannabis, they just like easily adopted it because they were like, oh yeah, like we know the spirit of plants, like
right,
we got this. So that's where it has been like used and introduced, and it was easily introduced because again, like they already like had a standing relationship with working with plant medicines, so it wasn't that far of a stretch. So let's see. Okay, so the name marijuana. So some people believe that it's related to the term Maria, which at the time was a common way to refer to indigenous women who came to cities to sell things from their community, and often that included plants. And some people though really don't agree with that at all because they think it's pretty disrespectful and it's kind of derogatory. And then the Juanes part was a term that it was used to refer to soldiers. And it is said that soldiers use marijuana frequently, buying it from Marias. So like that's where like the Maria Juana thing is like that's
Maria Juana.
Yeah. That's cool. Where yeah, but it's still speculation. Sure. Again, like however, again, in that documentary, in That Grass is Greener, they do talk about how the government, the United States government, really like stuck to using the name marijuana instead of like anything else that you could have possibly called it, because it had that Spanish or Hispanic connotation. So now you associated with it with, people of color, with Mexican people. Um, so so as soon as it was introduced though into Mexico, it was quickly started being used both recreationally and medicinally, and as well as in religious rituals. So in some religions, or native people will actually take the plant and they'll leave it on the altar, and that's part of, as an offering. In the 16th century, it was used as a treatment for gonorrhea and to regulate the menstrual cycle, and also to alleviate muscle pain and toothaches. There are documents that detail the use of cannabis in Mexican spiritual rituals. So there's a story written by a man named Guillermo Prieto in 1857. And he describes a ritual by an indigenous community in San Juan del Rio, which consisted of smoking marijuana to go into a trance-like state in order to find out whether a marriage between two young people should or shouldn't take place.
I mean, yeah, that's smoking it to go into a trance-like state to ask for direction on anything is pretty much the whole foundation of using it for meditation.
Yeah. And so, like I said, because of the indigenous people's already deep knowledge when it came to psychoactive plants and their benefits, once they became aware of cannabis, they incorporated it into their botanical toolkit pretty quickly.
Nice.
So even today, there's an indigenous group from Puebla, Mexico. They're called the Otomi. They used cannabis, which they actually refer to as Santa Rosa, which means Saint Rose, in their rituals. The Otomi actually eat the cannabis. And they also use ritual dolls made of paper into which they insert cannabis. And so they usually associate cannabis with relaxation, but they spend their rituals dancing all night. Which, like,
yeah,
that's fun.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great time.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And then we get into the Caribbean. So marijuana is used by the Rastafarians. And again, for them, it's like to heighten the feelings of community, to produce visions of religious and calming nature. However, they don't refer to it as marijuana. They're going to call it, they usually describe it as wisdom weed or the holy herb.
Okay.
Or ganja, right?
Okay.
Like ganjas, I think that's where that term actually is from them. So the Rastafarians began incorporating ganja into their religious ceremonies in the late 1800s. And this was done by indentured East Indians who were brought to the island to work after slavery ended. And then Jamaica also happened to have some of the best climate in which to grow the plant. And then this is a good fact. So, because probably the best known Rastafarian was Bob Marley. But he did not use cannabis recreationally, and he did not see its value as a recreational drug. He viewed marijuana as a holy rite, and he saw himself as a holy person, as do all Rastafarians, and believed strongly that marijuana opened up a spiritual door that allowed him to access his creativity. Which I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is gorgeously beautiful.
Yeah.
Creativity is just simply inspiration. And as inspiration comes from the higher self, and the higher self, when you use plant medicines to connect to that higher self, it just sort of blows it wide open.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to end this by just talking about something that I had experienced recently, because in doing this research, we got into the United States and they started talking about the hippie movement, but I don't personally see the hippie movement as like a religious or ritual thing or use. That's more of a social, like political movement that happened.
100%.
So I wasn't like, I don't really, I mean, that's, you can do your own research on how the hippies, used it or whatever and what they thought about it. But, as far as like ritual, I don't think it's there.
No, but you're correct about political or social, because you know there's a negative connotation when it comes to hippies. What are they? They're long-haired, pot-smoking, you know, long-haired something people need not apply. What is it? Long-haired freaky people need not apply.
Talking about LSD and how when the government, the CIA was testing it on soldiers, it actually caused them to like leave, right? And they were just like, fuck, like it doesn't make any sense. Like, why are we fighting? You know, why are we out here killing each other? Like, let's get out of here. So that's like part of why it was outlawed, but that's part of like cannabis too. Cannabis also like opens you up to like being more loving and like, you know, get in touch with nature and like not be so mad and like, you know, love. So it puts you on a different frequency and not in a bad way at all. So yeah, of course, like some like a government controlling agency that wants you to go off and fight and be mad about shit, you know, doesn't want you to like have that experience.
1,000 years from now, when we're looking back and all of this stuff is, you know, in the history books, and we see the absolute manipulation and control that we are, you know what I mean? I'm not one of those conspirituality people who's like, we're being controlled, which, but we are being controlled, right?
But we're being distracted. You know, at the very least, we're being distracted.
Distraction. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous, but you know, things like that, like, oh no, we want to make this a bad thing. We want to outlaw this because this brings about, you know, free will, and it brings about open-mindedness and love and compassion and all that stuff. So I think we're going to be really like shocked.
Yeah.
At the level.
So what I wanted to say was, so recently when I went, I was able to sit in community and circle with a really cool group of women, and one of them actually channeled a message from the cannabis plant. And she was telling us how the plant doesn't like to be called weed because like weed is a derogatory term for, you know, for plants. Like, you know, a weed is something unwanted.
Right.
So refer to it by its name. So whether you want to use marijuana or cannabis or ganja or just what, you know, what it calls, you just don't necessarily use that.
Don't call it weed.
Yeah. And then also when you are partaking in it in whatever way, but if you are smoking it, that you should smoke it with something that also comes from the earth. So like if you make an apple bong or even a glass pipe, because glass is just sand, right? That's fine too, or paper. And then what else? So there was that. Oh, and then using the entire plant. Like if you are going to have your own and grow your own, because like I know here we're allowed to have, you know, a certain amount of plants, to use the entire plant, not just the flower. Like the whole plant has so many cannabinoids, and that's a whole other thing that we can go get into, like a whole other podcast episode of the fact that we have a cannabinoid system that is like, you know, like built to take in you know, these things and like have and use them in our body. Like that's pretty incredible.
Yes, it's similar to the mushroom, right? Where there it's like it's a mirror.
How does it know? Yeah, how does it know what to do? Yeah, it's just, I just think that's really cool. There is though there's this book that I wanted to mention. There's this the author's name is Daniel McQueen, and the book is called Psychedelic Cannabis: Therapeutic Methods and Unique Blends to Treat Trauma and Transform Consciousness. He actually talks about, so this is where I felt like this was more useful information as far as like the use of cannabis in the United States in a more like medicinal way. So he actually uses it, they use it like it's a controlled environment, like an office setting, basically, to help people move through traumatic events. So kind of like MDMA therapy, or I think there's mushroom therapy that they're doing that with as well. But maybe for someone who's like not quite ready to get into like a straight, you know, full on psychedelic experience, they use cannabis to kind of to aid that process. And how really cannabis just helps you to get in touch with your body. And and also though, he made a really solid point that cannabis can kind of shapeshift. And it's almost like it gives you what you need. And for some people it does, it's always like set and setting, right? Like it's always depends on like where you're at and who you're with and what you're doing. But like if you do use it intentionally, it will provide you with what you need. Like when I had that really intense and pretty traumatic mushroom experience, the way that I was finally able to integrate it and make sense of everything was with cannabis. Like it was one night that I sat with it, and like I was able to go through the entire experience and understand it in this way that I could not understand it before. Like, and I was so thankful for that. But that was all thanks to cannabis. So
it's a really beautiful tool to use with going deeper and getting the answers. I mean, you know, physically, you know, yes, you relax and all of those things. And if you, like you said, if you have anxiety or you have thoughts on your mind or you have things, you know, it can be distracting because it wants you to focus on those.
Yeah.
Or it's going to make those bigger, expand those things. Right. But when it is like your partner in co-creation, sort of like when everything aligns and it's a perfect partner, you can have some of the most profound and life-altering, you know, just insights into yourself, healing, self-healing. So I don't for a minute believe that that I need to stop, or that it's that it invites evil entities or anything like that. And I feel bad for people that
believe that.
Believe that, because that's just a disempowering thought that you and your mind itself are not strong enough, you know, to take the help of this plant and use it, you know, in ways. I think that's just a shadow that comes up, that's unprocessed shadow. If you do feel like, oh no, it brings out my quote unquote demons.
Yeah.
Well, you got some work to do.
And I know that for some people, though, that it does have some negative connotations to it, because maybe they've had like a family member who's
addictions,
addictions and stuff. The thing is though, that addictions can be formed to anything. Like, and it's not the plant itself. You know, it's not that, like, people get addicted to porn, and like, you know, like people get addicted to food. Like there's all sorts of addictions that you can have when you have that propensity to be addicted to something. It's not necessarily the thing that you're addicted to that's causing, you know, the need. So
girl, I had an addiction to Stacy's pita chips. I'm not even kidding. I am not, and those people that know me know I am not fucking kidding.
You're not kidding.
I did. I'm not even gonna tell you the details of it. It was the stupidest thing. That's just an aspect of my personality. I have an addictive personality. And you know, that was just the manifestation of it at that time, until I pulled myself out of that downward spiral with pita chips.
And you know, and some people may use it to use a substance to numb out, because they want to escape from, you know, and a lot of times that's alcohol,
or whatever.
But whatever, you know, it's whatever works. It's some people, it's video games. Like, you know, they don't have to take responsibility for the things that are in front of them, and they just distract and avoid. So, you know, don't necessarily attach your negative experiences with a certain person, or, you know, something that you may have watched somebody go through. That wasn't so much the plant's fault as it was, you know, what that person was here to experience.
Yeah, it's individual, because there is no way in hell I can numb out on cannabis. The last thing that would happen is numbing out, being able to shut it all up. My brain starts like, oh, you're up, you're ready, let's do this. Let's go deep, right? And I'm like, no. But you know, that's why I use it, is to but yeah, so numbing out is not possible for me, and that's not possible for many people. So
Yeah, I know. I had a small surgery, and my sister had brought me over some edibles, and she was like, "Here, it'll help you with your pain." And I took it, and I was like hyper
Right?
aware
Even more painful.
of the surgery. No, I could feel every stitch. I could feel
Yes.
everything that had happened, and I was like, "This is the worst
Never again.
idea. No, never again. Never."
Yes, it's beautiful. It works different with different people
Yeah,
and different.
it really
Yeah.
does.
So yeah, same. It makes me hyper aware of everything. There is no numbing out.
Mm-hmm.
There's hyper awareness.
Yep. All right. You have anything?
Well, thank you.
for
That
us?
was really interesting. Super interesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. You have something for our closing vibe today?
Yeah, I do. So I want to talk about our personal year numbers. It's almost going to be time for me to drop the announcement that I'm doing the yearly forecasts, and I'm just like, this year I was like, I just can't do the 12-month forecast this year. It just wasn't sitting with me. And then I started thinking about, well, how can I offer these reports for people? And then I decided to offer the report on personal years. So I'm super excited about it. So I just wanted to go through the personal years really quick, let everybody know what it is. And then, if you're interested in a report, that these are coming out, or you're going to be able to buy these. All right. So numerology, right? We know that numerology runs in a 9-year cycle and gives us insights into, the theme and the energy of, certain areas of our life. So our personal year number, that also runs in a 9-year cycle, and gives us insight into the energy that we're going to experience in a given year and the theme of that given year, that energy that's going to support you but also challenge you. So when you know your personal year number, it can help provide you with guidance to go with the flow of life rather than like fighting against it. For instance, if you are in a 1 personal year, it's going to be a year that is going to focus on, or the thing that you'll most experience is self-identification, individualization. Who am I? Where am I going? What do I want? The I am sort of concept.
Mm-hmm.
And personal years run from January 1st through December 31st. They're a full calendar year. Year 2, when you're in a personal year 2, you're going to be experiencing a lot of circumstances around partnerships, validation of who you are, what you're capable of, that sort of thing. Year 3 is all about self-expression. So 3 is typically associated with communication, but how we communicate comes through 1,000 different sort of avenues. It comes through our speaking and our writing, but also our clothing, our hair, all of that stuff. So year 3 is really about authentic self-expression, being the most authentic version of self, and then taking creative action. Your creativity comes through, and inspiration, and how are you going to put that into action? Year 3 is a cool year. I really enjoyed my year 3. Year 4 is a little bit of a harder year. It's all about structure, stability, hard work. So a lot of people, like new business owners or people that switch jobs or people that are in current jobs, they find that year 4 feels all they do is work. Work. It feels really, you can get really exhausting. So year 4 is a hard one, but year 4 is really important because you're building structures and foundations for the next 5 years in your 9-year cycle. So just stick with it. Year 5 is about freedom and movement. So year 5 is a very social year, and it's when all of these amazing things start to happen. That's when you start, feeling the results of that 4-year. So you have the money and the stability to go and be social and travel. But also, a 4-year can be really solitary. So that 5-year brings in lots of social interactions.
Oh.
The 6th year is about service, nurturing, and that's really the year of the healer. It's the year of goddess energy. It's the year of family and home. A lot of people get married in 6 years, or they start relationships, or they have babies, or buy homes. All of that. So it's a wonderful year for creating those home elements. Year 7 is about answers, knowledge. That's the year of mystics. It's the year of the psychics and all of that. It's when a lot of people will find or explore their spirituality in a year 7. 7 is about being the seeker of deeper meaning and knowledge. So it's a good year, but the number 7 and the characteristics of somebody who has a 7 in their chart is you're very analytical, you're very directed and focused, not super warm and fuzzy. So that's sort of what the 7 is. The 7 reminds me of the Hierophant card in tarot, but also the Hermit. The 8 year is about power and money, power and success, taking action, being self-made. It's all about sort of identifying all the areas of your life where you feel disempowered and then turning them, flipping them, taking some action to actually straighten those or make them right in your life. So that you are now working in an empowering, creative, forward-moving action. And then as a result, that typically brings you face-to-face with either material wealth and success or the challenges that you have with your relationship with money and how that needs to be righted so that you can, the 8 year is, I think of it as, it's not that I think of it like what it is. It's like the infinity symbol, right? The 8 is the infinity symbol. So what you put into it, you get out of it, right? Okay. So that's like the other day when I was like, I don't want to go to yoga. I just want to do something else. And then I was like, well, what you put into it, you get out of it. So if I put nothing into it, I get nothing out of it. So I made myself go. And of course, then felt great. Okay, and then the last year of a 9-year cycle is year 9. That's for finding peace, letting go, releasing, letting things just happen as is, acceptance. A lot of people describe the year 9 as a year of endings, but it's less about endings and more about letting everything fall where it may. Like, in September, the leaves turn, beautiful shades and then fall from the trees. And just letting things fall where they are, because that's just setting you up for, that a brand new 9-year cycle of new beginnings with that one.
Yeah.
So again, knowing your personal year is really, 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 it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. And how you can figure that out is super easy. So you just take the universal year that you're in. So we're in a 6 universal year. And how you figure that out is we're in 2022. When you add 2 plus 2 plus 2 together, you get 6. All right. So you're in a 6 personal year. And you're going to take your birthday. So the month plus the 7 plus the 6. And then you add them all together. 1 plus 7 plus 6. This is my birthday. You get 1, 4. That equals 14. And then you break that down to a single digit. 1 and 4 is 5. And I am in a 5 personal year. Yeah. So you are, you'd be 10, 4, 6. So yes. What's that? That's 5 and 6 is 11. Oh, okay. So remember, with master numbers, you don't break it down. So you're in an 11-2 year. So you're in a master number year, which makes sense actually now, knowing everything that's going on for you and that has been going on. Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's how you figure out your master number, and that's why it's important to know what you're in. So if you would like a report of your year and then a 5-year snapshot into the next 5 years, watch for when I put those on sale and put them on my website, and you can order them.
Yes. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for giving me the space. All right, guys. You can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast. And be sure to join our Facebook community, the Esoterics community, where you will hear firsthand about all of our services, our events, our courses, all of our woo-friendly resources, energy updates, group-only pricing, and then we'll do some occasional card pulls and freebies and all that good stuff.
Yep. You'll also find support and information for developing your own spiritual and intuitive abilities, as well as your daily practices.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us into your life. Stay mystical, magical, and ready to do it again next episode.
Yay. Bye, guys. Thanks.